Welcome back to Talent Fueling Ambition, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on the unfiltered realities of building and scaling a business from the ground up. I'm Jason Walker, co-founder of Walker Smith. This podcast is for the founders, the leaders, and the entrepreneurs, the ones bold enough to chase what's next. Today, we are diving into the mentality of a founder. Can anyone be an entrepreneur? I believe anyone has the ability, but not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. It takes a lot of courage, a great idea, and you need a customer whose problems you can solve with your product or service. Does it take a lot of money to start to become an entrepreneur? Well, it depends on what your product is. For some, there is a lot of investment that goes into it. If you look at technology or you look at farming equipment or any sort of high-end product, yes, it does take a lot of money to start. But if you're looking at providing a service that can deliver and solve problems immediately for your customer, then no. All you need is a great idea, great work ethic, the ability and the expertise to deliver, and the understanding of what value you can create when you provide your service to your customers. They say that you need to be obsessed with your product offering or service to be successful. But can you really thrive and succeed in something that you're not interested in? I believe you can. However, I think it is incredibly difficult to do so. But the way you can do this is if the means meets the end. And what I mean by that is that you need a goal that is greater than what you're doing. So there are a number of individuals that I know who really self-sacrifice their own personal interest if the goal is greater than themselves. So yes, you can do that. But it's even better if you're working in an industry that you're passionate about, if you're providing a service to a client that you believe will create incredible value, and you also have clarity around the goal that you have and the reason that you're doing it. So having that interest and having that vision combined is going to provide you with a greater opportunity to succeed. Where you don't have that passion, it's easier to look outside of what you're doing to find something else if you really are bought into it. I believe entrepreneurs, business people judge success differently. There are different ways that you can judge success. Is it purely money? But success can also be about longevity and legacy, being around for a long time and building up credibility and an opportunity for others. Success can be working and developing other people and mentoring and creating the next generation to come through and take the mantle of what you've been doing. Success can also be creating a structure ladder for others to climb up and to do well, but it can also be money. And I find personally, if you do all those other things, if you look to go out and create a legacy, if you go out and try and build a foundation and a structure that others can work with, and if you're helping build people talent, then the money will come as a result of that if you manage the business well enough. It doesn't just happen overnight. It happens through making sure that you're consistently doing the right things all the time as part of your strategy. So when I set the goal for the Walker Smith business to go out there and build a professional services recruitment company, the moment I set that goal, I decided to set a finite time frame. 1,000 days, let's get 30 people into a business and let's strive to be a market leader in that space. The moment I set that goal was the moment I realized that I can't do that alone, which might be quite strange. You think, well, you've done it before, you've built a business before. But again, once you set a goal, I believe you start to see the opportunities all around you that can help support that goal. And how that looked like for me was partnering with a great organization and a great individual, Regan Higgins. I think there's a saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Well, we want to go fast and far. And I think as a team, we can achieve that. There are some mistakes that entrepreneurs make. I've made them myself. I mean, as a younger man, I tried to set up businesses. And in the last 8 years, before I'd set up Walker Smith, I was working with a number of entrepreneurs. And so a number of the mistakes I've seen them make fairly early on, right? One, they have a great idea, but they don't stick with that idea. They don't really embed it and they keep changing the idea. And when they keep changing the idea, it changes the market, it changes the value proposition, it changes the problems that they are looking to solve. because entrepreneurs tend to be very, very highly creative and they don't want to be bogged down by one simple thing. So I see that they change too quickly. The second thing I see is that they don't build a solid foundation for their business early on. It's quite exciting to have a product, have an idea of a service and rush out to the market. But if you grow without a solid foundation, it's a bit like building a house that had on sand. If you don't have a solid foundation, it'll start sinking when it starts to rain. When things get difficult, you don't have that foundation to prop you up. And so what happens is if they grow too quickly without that foundation, it can fall down around them. I've seen that happen. The third one is that they get success early on and the revenue starts coming in. And rather than parking some of that revenue for future growth and scale, they take a significant amount of that revenue out of the business, forgetting that there's GST to pay, forgetting that there's provisional tax to pay, and suddenly getting themselves in a really difficult financial situation because of poor mismanagement financially, as opposed to not having a great idea or a great service or a great product. And then what happens is their cash flow reduces and they cannot scale quickly. If I was starting out again and I was having a conversation with my younger self, what type of advice would I give a young Jason Walker back then? Well, I don't believe there's been a day that goes by that I haven't shown up with some sense of fear of rejection or with some level of imposter syndrome. And I didn't know why that was the case. I always managed to overcome that feeling, but it was consistently a lot of discomfort around that. And it's only recently that I discovered that a lot of what I do in my preparation, a lot of the way I plan and I organize myself, I do that because I try and control an outcome that I cannot control. If there is one thing that you can control, it's what you do. You can control what value you're trying to create, but you cannot control the outcome that somebody else is going to make a decision or is someone going to like you. It's never going to happen 100% of the time. So if you're trying to be perfect for everyone, you're going to create this sense of danger and you'll try and avoid that. And it creates this imposter syndrome, this whole fear process and this fear of rejection. If I was telling my younger self to go out there and be an entrepreneur and create and build a business, I would say to my younger self, don't focus on the deal. Don't focus on the transaction. Don't focus on getting the revenue over the line. Focus on how much value you can create. You can control that. You can control the value. You can control how authentic you are when you show up and talking to a customer sitting across from you. But one thing you cannot control is whether or not they're going to like you, like your service, or like your product. So just relax around that. Just give that away. Just let that have its own power and take power on what you can do and what you can control. I think that would have been the best advice anyone could have given me when I was starting out many years ago. Thank you for joining us at the Talent Fueling Ambition podcast. And we look forward to connecting with you with more ideas for leaders, entrepreneurs, and founders.